Welcome back everybody to the No Magenta Lines startup tutorials. Today we're taking a look at the FSS 727-100 variant, but this tutorial shall work with the 100, the 200, the freighter, and even the super for the most part. We're going to be showing you how I start the 727, not the rural way. We're going to be in MK Studios port though. We're also using the Pro Desk Sim 727 throttle kit. If you guys want to check that out, it's all in the description for you. You can check that out at the link below. Without further ado, let's get into the flight deck, guys, and start this amazing airplane. Welcome everybody to the flight deck of the beautiful 727-100. Yes, it looks scary, but I'm here to tell you that if you can fly a 737 pretty well, you can fly this airplane just okay. It's a lot less scary than you think. In this video, we're going to be showing you how to start this aircraft up without the flight engineer. If you do want the flight engineer, select this little phone, and you can select the different phases of flight you'd like your engineer to complete. Furthermore, you can control what is automated during your flight with these little tick marks here. Very quickly, this is a 3-person aircraft: captain, first officer, flight engineer, and that's how you can run it. This airplane does feature a built-in automatic flight engineer that'll control this whole panel for you with all phases of flight. However, we're going to show you how to do the startup all manually today, as I think it's just a lot more fun to do it that way. Also, we're going to be showing you this with the INS variant. There's 3 variants you can get. You can get the INS, the 530, or the GNS XLS. Both the 530 and the GNS are pretty self-explanatory, but maybe we'll do a future review on these if you guys would like that. But for today, we'll be doing the INS. Okay, guys, now what I'm going to say right now applies to every single airplane you'll ever learn to start or fly. First, you're going to need some sort of DC electrical system, followed by an AC electrical system. Every airplane is basically the same in that regard. You'll need a battery or a DC power, and you'll need an AC power like an APU or a ground power. And the 727 is no different. From 727 to Concorde to F-14, they all require the same amount of power. Usually it's a 115 AC kind of amp system. So our voyage today is going to start off on the clipboard. Bring up our clipboard here, and we're going to select on the front page, ground power, connect. Alrighty, so we're going to head over to the flight engineer station. And I know it looks like a lot of switches and stuff, but everything's broken down into their specific sections here. As you guys can see, the top here is air conditioning. The left side here is all electrical stuff. This is all fuel, hydraulics, and pressurization. So everything you've seen in a 737, there's just a little bit more stuff, but it's all the same thing. So stick to how you start a 737. The first thing you're going to do is going to get the battery power on. Alrighty, and then if just below that, you can see we do have our external power. We can go and select that in the on position. Alrighty, now, last step, it's 1, 2, 3. We're going to select our essential power to the external power mode. And now we're running off external power mode properly. Now, anytime you change your AC power, let's say we start the APU, we're going to change this to the APU. Once you start your engines, we're going to start to Gen 1, Gen 2, and furthermore. So we're going to go ahead and show you that. But now your aircraft is alive in terms of electrical load. It's ready to go. So the next step is to get our radios and INS aligned. So the first thing we're going to do is going to come over to the opposite side of the flight engineer, select both master radio switches on, and that is now considered working. So all your radios down here will be working. Now let's get over to the INS and we'll show you how to align this thing. Really quickly though, before we do that, don't forget your navigation lights to the on position. This should be default, but just be sure that's there. And if it's at nighttime, throw in the logo as well. Alright guys, we're now getting closer to the very scary INS system, but just be sure to know that it actually isn't all that bad, and you'll get really used to it pretty quickly actually. It's easier than an FMS in a lot of ways. So we're going to click the knob up here to standby. There's only one INS in this airplane, so I got to deal with one of these. Alright, whereas like the Concorde or the 747 might have 3 of these to do, but you can align them all the same way. We're going to select this over to the position, and we're going to find our coordinate. Now the easiest way to find your coordinates, I find, is with Navigraph, and you're going to locate the 10-9 alpha page. It'll be the same chart in every single airport. Just obviously the actual chart will be different, but the page number will be the same, 10-9 Alpha. We're at gate S61, so you can see that through S61 to S62, these are our coordinates right here. This is what we're going to put in our system. So I'll move this to the side. Alrighty. Now sometimes what's a good idea is to highlight the one you're at because it's easy to lose track. Either above or below it or cross it through, whatever you want to do. Those are our coordinates right there. So we're at north, at 2 for north, fit 41, 14, 4. We're going to insert that. Then you can see as a W, you're going to click west. There is 2 zeros. We can either type 2 zeros or just leave the 2 zeros. So we're going to click 846. 2 zeros are there, insert. Now what we've gone ahead and did is we've told the airplane, the INS system, where we are on the world, on the Earth. Now we got to align those INS gyros to this position. So we'll select this knob to the align position. Now this can take up to 7 to 9 minutes. If you don't want to wait that long, you can click the ready light and it'll go automatically green and ready to go. You can check your status alignment in the status section right here. We're going to look for when it says 05, I believe, or 01 is when it's ready and the green light will appear. Once the green light appears, you can select it to nav. Again, clicking this button will auto fast align it. All right, guys, believe it or not, you're almost there. Going to the overhead panel, you can do all your normal overhead panel things like in a 737. So we're going to go from top to bottom, left to right. Always good to check. We can go ahead and arm anti-skid at this point. I think they would do that a little bit later, but in the sim, we can do this now. Moving down, nothing to note of. We've got our emergency lights to arm. These are our engine starters, nothing really there for us now. You can perform the CVR test if you'd like to do all that kind of stuff. Our smoking sign can go on. Seatbelts can stay off for the time being, as we're not ready to push just quite yet. At the top here, our window feeds can be selected on. This is all our anti-ice. We'll leave this off. And our probe heat, we'll leave this off for the time being as well. So your overhead panel is all set up just like that. All right, guys, why don't we go ahead and finish some of the engineer panel requirements. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and get fueled up. If you're going to get fueled up for your flight, you can do that easily with the little clipboard here. I have a SimBrief flight plan just as a default flight plan plugged in from Porto to Lisbon. You can select pre-flight, sync your SimBrief flight plan, and then you can either enable or disable GSX for your fueling and load. Press play, instant, press play, instant. Okay guys, now as you can see, we have been loaded with our fuel. So what we can go ahead and do is set up our panel in a flow and then check with the checklist later just to make sure we've done everything. So I'm going to start from the very top right. We'll kind of just zigzag our way down. Bleed air conditioning is kind of all set. Don't really need to do anything with that right now. With the APU off, there's no air coming to the aircraft, so if people complain about heat, you'd have to connect an air cart outside. You can do that through the clipboard. Moving left over here, galley power can be selected on as the coffee makers and all that kind of stuff can start to be working. Nothing else has to be done in this section. All we can do now is turn our system here to external power, just so you can monitor the voltage of the external power. That's if you want to do that. Moving down to the fuel pumps, we're going to select one pump from each tank. So 1, 2, and 3. The lights should extinguish. There they go. Moving down here, these are our hydraulics here. We're going to go ahead and select our left electric pump 1 on. You can see the 3000 psi is, or the psi is increasing. It should stop at 3000. Once we get to 3000, we're going to select our number 2 pump on, select number 1 off, and it maintains the pressure, and that's what we want to see. And we're going to keep 1 pump on at all times. Moving up from that, our pressurization panel. Simply dial in the altitude you're going to be flying at. For today's flight, we're filed at 310. Come to this little chart. Flight level 310 is right here. 30, 31, 32. So 31,000 read up is 4.1. So I'm going to select my cabin altitude to 4,100 feet. Alrighty. Landing altitude, you'd select your altitude of your airport that you're going to be landing at. I believe Lisbon's pretty low level, but we'll just leave it at 200 for now. That is your flight engineer station all set up. Okay, so I'm going to show you guys how to enter a waypoint. First things first, we do not want to edit waypoint 0, as that's where we currently are and our alignment will be completely screwed up. So you're going to select a waypoint 1. I actually don't know why there's waypoints in here. But anyways, if you were going to type in your own waypoints, select waypoint 1, find the coordinates in your flight plan, usually on your OFP, and simply type in the same way you typed it for your position. Just verify that this is set to waypoint, as you guys can see there. And you would type it in just like this: north 41 25 5, insert west 8 43 7, insert, and so on. And you can do all 9 waypoints. If you have more than 9 waypoints, fly up to waypoint 7 or 8, and then in the air, you're going to start overwriting waypoint 1, 2, 3, 4 with the rest of your flight plan. I don't want to wait any longer. Let's go ahead and click our green light here. You can go to the status section. Notice how we're completely aligned, and select it over to the nav position. And now we're aligned. Okay, so obviously you'd be getting pushed back and all that kind of stuff to start your engines up, but we're going to go ahead and do that just at the gate. First things first, you're going to set up some of your instruments over here. So let's go ahead and click the B button to set our altimeter, or you can scroll it with the scrolling knob there. But go ahead and uncage our standby artificial horizon as well. This process takes a little long. Next, you could set your altitude. If you're flying a SID or a certain departure that they want you to fly at, climb to a certain altitude, you can set that right here. We'll say 5,000 for the time being. Next, for your takeoff speeds, simply bring up the clipboard, press takeoff, sync all the weather, set the EPR in the trim, and set your takeoff speeds. And what we've just done was we set our indicators for our engine pressure ratio. We're set to 2.0. You can set these manually by doing that, or you can just click set EPR and it'll do it for you. It also sets your takeoff trim for you, and it also will set your V-speed. If you'd like a flight director, you can go ahead here and select flight director, usually in heading mode if you're just going to fly a heading, or if you want to fly based off an INS or GPS and or VOR course, you can set it to VL. So if you're using the INS, the GPS, or a VOR, VL flight director will laterally show you to turn left or right with that GPS. Or you can set it to heading. More on the flight director a bit later. We'll have a separate video on that. Furthermore to that point, if we're going to be using the INS, make sure you're set this to GPS. GPS INS is down. VOR ILS is up. Your transponder can be found just right of the INS here. And just before pushback, we select number 1 if we're flying from the left-hand seat, 2 if you're flying from the right. Altitude reporting on, this will turn mode C on for you. And the TCAS, we can just set to transponder only. Once you get to the runway, you can set to TARA norm. Below your throttles, you have your autopilot controls, followed by all your radios here. COM 1, COM 2, NAV 1, NAV 2, ADF 1, ADF 2, all here for you. Okay, the APU panel is just over here. And what we're going to go ahead and do is if you'd want to do the fire test, you can do so by clicking this switch up and holding. Just keep in mind, you're going to click reset once to cancel the alarm and reset again so the external power, the power generator from the APU can actually be applied to the aircraft. If you only reset once, you'll get no electrical power from the APU. Now we're going to select the on and start position. Notice how the APU exhaust in the 727 is on the right-hand wing. Very, very unique design choice. Alrighty, as you guys can see, the APU light is on. We have a stable EGT load from that. We can go ahead and close the circuit breaker, or close the breaker. And now we're running off APU power electrically. So we'll come back over here to where the ground power was. You can see the ground power has automatically turned itself off, and our essential power has to be selected to APU. Now we can give the ground crew the signal to remove the ground power. All right, guys, I think you guys are ready to start. So let's go ahead and select our beacon light on, our seatbelt signs on, verify that our doors are closed. Currently the APU door is the only one that's open. And with that, we're ready to start. Be sure to use your checklist as well, just to make sure you did everything correctly. You have your pilot checklist and your engineer checklist. All right, let's come back over here. We're going to select all the fuel pumps on now, if there's fuel in those said tanks. I'm going to verify that our packs are off and our engine number 2 / APU bleeds are both on. That being done, we can go ahead and start up our engines. Might as well select our number 1 hydraulic pump on as well. So, coming up here to the overhead panel, we don't need continuous ignition for this, leave that off. These are your 3 starters for 3 engines. You're simply going to go ahead and select number 3, then 1, then 2, I believe is the startup procedure for that. Well, we're going to select number 3, the right-hand engine up first, set it to ground, just scroll downwards, and you'll see that your N2 is going to start to rise. Now, I've heard 12%, 20%, all different sorts of numbers to do off this. I've been using 12% to add fuel. So we're going to go ahead and add fuel on number 3. But I'm sure 20% will work just fine. And as we're adding fuel, what you're going to go ahead and see is your EGT, or exhaust gas temperatures here, are going to start to rise quite quickly. Your fuel flow is rising as well as the engine is coming alive. Alright, as you guys can hear, your starter has cut out automatically for you, and you're going to repeat that process for the remaining 2 engines. As you guys can see, all 3 engines are up and running nicely. So what we're going to go ahead and do is do our after start flow. And I want you guys to, can you please stop back there? I want you guys to go ahead and use your 737 after start procedure as close as you can if you fly the 7.3. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to transfer your generators from your APU onto your engine. So let's go ahead and select close. First thing you're going to do is you're going to select your generators online. We'll go number 1, or correction number 3, number 2, and number 1. Now let's set our essential power to Gen 1. Alrighty, following that step, we can now shut off our APU. So select your APU to the off position, and the APU is going to start to shut down. The next thing you do in your 7.3 is you can go ahead and make sure all your hydraulics are on, which we've done that. Electrics and the hydraulic system engine 2 and 1 pump are on. Next, you can go ahead and turn your air conditioning panel. Next, you can set up your air conditioning panel correctly. So we'll select both packs to the on position, and all the bleeds are already all still on. Moving to the overhead panel, we can select our probe heats to on. If you had auto brakes, you can set them to RTO. They'd be right here. This is a 100 variant, so you won't have that. You can set your flaps to the takeoff position, and you can select your continuous ignition on, either now or just prior to takeoff. One thing you guys can't forget is just before takeoff, be sure to select this pressurization switch from ground to flight, or else your pressurization will not pressurize and you're going to have a very bad day. For now, we'll leave it on ground. If you follow these steps, your airplane should be ready to go. Just disconnect your ground power, push back, and be on your way. I hope you enjoyed the 727 as much as I do. We'll see you guys in the next tutorial. Thank you so much.